Okay. So this morning we're reviewing the didomi verbs. Um, let's go ahead and just kind of generally reflect and let me ask y'all, um, because I didn't actually didn't go back this time and watch the Tuesday class. So what do y'all remember about these verbs? Anything that stood out?
I watched the majority of the class pretty late last night. Because it was pretty late, a lot of it kind of glossed over my mind. Uh, I don't remember too much, but I remember some paradigms, obviously. And I mean, they didn't look too difficult, but there were a couple unique things going on that I'd have to restudy and retalk about. Um, the idea that doing a non-indicative, and we've been in an indicative for a long time. But I don't know. You got the participle of it, the infinitive of it, the imperative of it, the subjunctive of it. I don't know. Like I understand it's just one of those words. It's just going to take more study to really get down and. But I don't know if I fully understand it. If that makes sense.
So, okay,
I don't know if
okay,
that. I got probably the best thing for me is just another walkthrough.
okay. We can. I have a kind of a concept of how I think I can do that. So, Sam, anything that stood out to you? Anything that you kind of remember vividly, or maybe not vividly, but just kind of more uh, standing out in your mind?
I wanted to make sure I heard Dave right that this word, and I guess with this was going out of the Greek during the time of Jesus, like it was leaving the language. So are we going? I assume we're going to run into it some in the New Testament, but is it? I guess not a very prolific word because of that, because it's going out.
Um, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that actually. And he actually addresses that in
Okay.
chapter 34, toward the beginning of the chapter. That we could be. Where was that at? Maybe it wasn't 34. Maybe it was 35. I don't. Oh no, it's 36. So we haven't gotten there yet. But there, there's a quite a few me verbs, and but only like a hand, kind of like two handfuls, that sort of thing. So it's not like this whole. Um, I don't know. It's not like you have a whole lot of words that are reflected with this pattern in the New Testament. Um, but yeah, you're right. They were phasing out of the language by this time. So what you see is the kind of few remaining words that stuck around, and it I don't know if that I don't know if that answered your question or not. I think I might have spun myself
No,
out at the end.
no, you're good. And it also also gave me a lot of confidence when Dave was like, it's like the Amy, it's weird. I was like, oh great, now we're dealing with like a whole entire another Amy kind of situation.
Yeah, he actually introduces in the chapter that a me is a me verb, but it doesn't behave exactly like the other me verbs do. It's not quite the same um, conjugation stuff going on.
Hmm.
But there are four different, at least in the indicative, which I imagine would be in the non-indicative too. There are four more or less patterns that the roots are going to behave with, and it deals with the vowel on the root. So there are I gotta remind myself now. There's one with an omicron, one with an epsilon, one with, I guess, an alpha. Well, I'm 35. That's why. Well,
I'm looking to here. I don't see an alpha, but maybe there is though.
well, there's four. I don't remember. I know there's an upsilon. Okay, here it is in 34.5. So there's alpha, epsilon, and upsilon in addition to omicron. You seeing that?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm still here. I just want you to know it keeps on cutting out pretty badly.
Yeah.
Problem.
Sorry about that.
You good? So yeah, the examples that are given there are the root from the word histemi, which means when I look it up in my Logos software, the gloss that it gives me is stand there. And it's kind of a, well, I don't know if anistemi is just as, I guess it is its own word, but it's built from histemi, and or anastasis rather is built from the kind of this kind of idea. And anastasis is what Jesus did after he was in the tomb for 3 days. So a very significant concept there. He resurrected. Ana meaning again, and stasis, stand there. So, in some sense, you could say that he stood there again.
Huh. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So
I just realized that I don't know why, but I've been studying. Well, after the class, I studied chapter 35, and we're in chapter 34, and both of them deal with didomai. So I just thought I was on the right one. I was in the wrong chapter this whole time. I'm sorry.
You're good. I was questioning myself whether our review was supposed to be 34 and 35.
Oh no, that's why I was saying like some of the non-indicative and the other. I was like, oh, and these paradigms, but
Yeah, he's doing 35 and 36 together next week.
Okay.
That's
That
right.
makes sense. I think that we can kind of summarize the difficulty level of this. Me verbs are the last thing that we learn in the course, in the book, really. And there are 3 chapters to cover all of me verbs, and one simply introduces the indicative. And there's a lot going. I mean, there are lots of different tenses in the indicative. So the fact that all those tenses are pretty much just covered in one chapter should tell you the level of difficulty we are adding to what we already know.
For sure.
And the same with the non-indicative. I mean, we spent like half of our time in verbs in the non-indicative, and maybe more. I don't really know, but that's summed up in one chapter. And basically, that the reason for that is it just about follows the same rules that other indicative and non-indicative verbs do. The only real difference is that it follows the me pattern of those. So instead of the omega kind of being the rule of thumb for first person singular, it's going to be me.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. That makes sense.
maybe that's where we get our first person singular me in English.
Maybe so.
Probably not, but it's
It makes,
interesting.
makes sense.
It does kind of make sense.
It's easy to remember that way, for sure.
Yeah.
Great way to remember
it. So help me understand this. Why, well, maybe not why, but what's going on with the reduplicated kind of thing in the word?
Perfect, isn't it? Something for the perfect.
So the perfect.
It's using the present tense stem.
Huh?
It's using the present tense stem, and so it reduplicates.
So think about what normally happens in indicative verbs. In the perfect tense, we we have reduplication, right?
Right.
But the present tense, the perfect tense is the only one that does that. The present tense doesn't do that in just what he calls thematic verbs. Those verbs that have a thematic vowel, different than what the me verbs are. The other indicative verbs that we have been introduced to so far. They oh goodness. Sorry, let me take a sip here. Maybe I can wake myself up. Okay. So the me verbs are different for whatever reason, in that their present tense form will reduplicate as well. But when it reduplicates, it's not the same kind of reduplication that the perfect gets. Instead of having that epsilon, instead of having the epsilon reduplicated first consonant. So I'm trying to think. Oh, okay. So the word telestai in its perfect form is tetelestai.
Yeah.
And so you see that reduplicated. The reduplication is tau epsilon. And I want to say, I guess I'd have to go back and look, but I want to say that the epsilon is basically across the board when it comes to perfect reduplication. But I gotta find the chapter perfect indicative.
I want to say there was whenever we went through the perfects that always epsilon, but I think that maybe I'm wrong. I was thinking there were a couple extra ones that weren't with epsilon, but it was with an iota or something different. but I can't remember. Sam, can you remember? You going back to homeworks of like doing the reduplication? I feel
Yeah,
like that.
for
Okay.
the present tense, you would have the reduplication of your consonant, but you will connect that with the iota instead of an epsilon for the present tense.
Hmm.
Yeah, in the me verbs, but in the ones that are not me verbs. So here I just found it's on page 280 if you want to check it out. But if a verb in the non-me verbs, the any other
Probably,
verb,
I mean,
huh?
I think there is a word for those nomi verbs. I think is with the book divided like thematic and athematic,
Yeah,
resulting in the connecting vowel. Is that correct?
that's correct. I've mentioned that term a couple of times this morning, but maybe I didn't do I guess really. At least I didn't feel like I did a great job explaining that. But yeah, Andres is right. Um, so you have me verbs, and then you have thematic verbs, which is everything except for the me verbs. Um, and so your thematic verbs have when they have consonantal reduplication, it's always you take basically the first letter of the root, pull it back out to the left, and then add an epsilon in between. When you have a root that starts with a vowel, it's called vocalic reduplication, and there's kind of more or less a lengthening. Yeah, it says if a verb begins with a vowel or diphthong, the vowel is lengthened. So keeping that in mind kind of helps us here because we see this reduplication going on here. But yeah, you get to the present, and it's like, hold on, the present tense is reduplicated as well, but it's reduplicated with an iota rather than an epsilon.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I don't think he mentions why, and I don't think it's really important why. It's just how these me verbs work, and so recognizing that is kind of like half the battle. And that's why I guess that's why he puts it as the first rule. He has 4 rules for kind of knowing how to handle the me verbs when you see them, rather than. So the 2 kind of options are you go and you memorize every form of every me verb that there is. And while there aren't that many me verbs, collectively, all of their forms would be a lot to just kind of keep in your storage and be able to pull from it anytime you wanted to. So memorizing these 4 rules, which cover most of the ground without, having you memorize all the specific details of each word, I think he's right in saying that that's much more effective.
Yeah. It's a lot of it's familiar, but the one thing I didn't remember was what you pointed out on 280. So like luo, whenever you translated it, wouldn't be luo, but it'd be le lu, And
Yeah.
I didn't probably at the time I realized why the vowel did that, but at the time I mean, or at least right now I can't remember. I was thinking it was like, or in other words, I didn't see the distinction between the consonantal and the verbal reduplication, and so now I do.
Okay,
But
now you see.
What's that?
I I don't know for sure, and maybe he covers this back there in that chapter on perfect verbs, perfect indicative. But it seems like the epsilon could be you know how the aorist has the epsilon, perfect has it's not it's called augment, right? Yeah,
Right.
that's the augment, and the augment is always epsilon. Of course that augment can kind of lengthen if it's attached to uh, what you call it, not a consonant, a vowel.
Right.
Lengthen if it's attached to a vowel, but it's epsilon, and that's what's going on behind the scenes when you do have a lengthening. I wonder if the epsilon in the reduplication carries with it the same kind of thing, or it gives you more of an essence of time.
Hmm.
And I don't know that for sure. And I'm not going to make that assertion here without doing any more research. But
I know
it's just a thought, and it could be the case. It could not be, but it's interesting though that when you get to the didomi verbs, the me verbs, and you have a difference in your reduplication vowel between the present and the perfect. It's interesting that the vowel changes in the present. It doesn't keep that same. It doesn't keep the epsilon like it does in the perfect. Which again,
like
my
saying
perfect indicative verbs have this idea of a completed action with ongoing results felt by the speaker.
Mhm.
right. That makes sense.
So the fact that it's not this completed action, but something that's present, something that is either ongoing or more or less undefined. Yeah, I don't know that for sure, but just knowing that it does reduplicate in the present as well as the perfect. That's kind of rule number one.
Gotcha. Yeah, it looks. It seems like it'd be pretty easy to spot the reduplication. The aorist form of it looks a little the edoka, and um,
Mhm.
the the reduplications are really easy to spot in Greek. The only I, usually when I think of a deed kind of word, I think of didasko, and it kind of looks similar, um, but it's a little bit different. So I could probably tell the difference, but I might get it confused initially with didasco. And,
Yeah, but you will not have didaskomy or something like that. So there is no confusion, right?
mhm.
Uh,
It'd be like
in that
oh,
sense.
skas or whatever the aorist is.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought, though. I'm
Okay.
gonna do a quick search. So if y'all, maybe now would be a good time to ask. Do y'all have any question about what we've covered so far this morning?
Sam has a bunch for sure. No, I don't. I don't. Um, say this is the most straightforward chapter. It's it's a lot to take in, but it seems like everything's making sense so far.
Yeah, I think probably the 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 rules. Once you understand the rules, it make pretty uh, um handy would be a word for it. Very Uh, once you understand the rules, pretty much like automatically you start recognizing things on this verb. It's just a little bit different, but
Yeah. So I was looking up because you brought up a good point that Didasco has DID at the beginning of its word. But I guess I think that's the only one that that does that. At least that's what I see in the lexicon. It's the only other word, noun, or verb that starts with D or delta, iota, delta. That's not a didomy. So that should help you. And that. So glance forward with me to chapter 36 real quick. Page 406. Let's just look at this list real quick.
where is it?
Page 406. So let's just look at this list of words. You have didomy, paradidomy, histemi, paristemi, anistemi. That's what I was talking about earlier. God has raised this Jesus to life. Tithemi, prostithemi, deichnumi, aphiemi. So out of that list, there's only one that starts with did.
Didomy.
So I guess this helps with my understanding of it. They're not all I give. This is just covering like the me verbs as far as
Yeah.
like the me ending.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're essentially talking about a form of word construction. Just like how, maybe not just like how, but similar to how in English we have words that change depending on their tense or their usage. So the word you, well, maybe that's not right. Okay, let me use the third person pronoun. Third person pronoun. One is singular, one is plural. I'll use he for the third person singular. Well, that word changes in its plural form. It's a different word. It's they or them. And no, I'm not saying he is they, them.
You gotta clarify these days.
Yeah, you do have to clarify. But it's really not much more different than that. And all this is just kind of a they to the he of the thematic verbs. Does that paradigm, does that parallel kind of work?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, that works. That works.
Okay, cool. So this isn't doing anything new or special for us in terms of, oh, these me verbs have like a deeper significance than other verbs. They don't. All it is just another word. And it follows a different set of rules because of its root and because it's a me verb.
God,
That's about it.
that makes sense. It's just another one of those Greek oddball things you got to learn. And
Yeah.
Definitely, this explain a lot why every time we went through verbs, Amy had a different, a very different conjugation.
Yeah.
Last time we were joking about memorizing the things and then leaving Amy for later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is the
yeah, I
reason. It's
remember
a
that
member.
now.
Mhm.
I remember talking about that, like different ones. We would always come up with an Amy, and it was like, oh, we'll wait till later to deal with it. And it's like, oh, well, now we are dealing with that side of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
these ones. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. That's for sure.
So rule one is let me just go kind of state these four rules.
Okay.
I don't know if I should wait on Sam. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can-
Okay, I'm getting like sort of a weird feedback.
Me too, but I don't know where it comes from.
It's coming from the computer.
Is it from me?
I don't know, but I don't hear it anymore.
Be right back. I gotta let my dog inside.
There he is. Did your internet give out?
You there?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. My internet it cut out right after I made a statement, and everybody went quiet, and I was like, well, I guess I made the wrong statement.
So you can do it. You are too close to the end. Don't hesitate and don't leave us anymore. You're
I,
very close to the end. You can do it.
I know I'm pulling a. I feel like I'm Mark with Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. And he went out from their midst.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
He started getting into the me verbs, and he said, "That's it. I'm done."
Yeah. So there are four basic rules to being able to deal with the me verbs when you see them. And rule number one is me. I'm just going to kind of read what he has word for
Yeah.
word for each rule. Rule number one: me verbs reduplicate their initial stem letter to form the present and separate the reduplicated consonant with an iota. That's rule number one. So rule number one, summed up, is the present tense reduplicates. It reduplicates with an iota, not an epsilon,
Which is something we haven't really seen, right?
which is something that we've not seen. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Whew. Rule number two: me verbs do not ordinarily use a connecting, which is a thematic vowel, in the present indicative. The personal ending is added directly to the stem. And he doesn't elaborate on what he means by do not ordinarily use a connecting vowel. So we may have to figure that out at a later time.
I think Dave said that there was like some that actually do.
That's what it seems like he's saying here.
Yeah.
Um,
Which that's Greek. Every time there's a rule for Greek, there's always like, well, not always.
yeah,
You know.
Yeah.
not every word can follow the rules. Yeah, you got some unruly type.
Mm-hmm.
So summed up, rule number two is the basic rule of thumb is they don't that the present doesn't use a connecting vowel.
Gotcha.
It just the stem ends with a vowel, and so you can just add the tense. Is it the tense ending? You can add the ending onto it
Personal
without having
endings.
to do anything else.
So because the stem is always going to have a vowel, you just don't need it. The connecting vowel.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You don't need a connecting vowel when you already have one. A vowel to connect to. Andres, were you saying something?
No, I just said personal ending.
Personal ending. Thank you. Rule number 3. Me verbs employ 3 different personal endings in the present active indicative, and that's me, see, and asi. And neither one of those are well, I actually don't know what he's trying to say there, because we do have words that have the personal ending of sigma iota. That's not something new. Unless I'm not reading this right. I don't know that he's saying this is something new necessarily, but
I think maybe what he's saying is there's like the rest are stuff we'd seen before, but those particular ones are new. The me in the first person singular, the see in the third person singular, and then the asi in the third person plural. Because I think we've seen the te before. Yeah. Okay. In the thematic conjugation, don't really know what's going on there, but we've seen the sigma and the iota and the men and the ete and the usin. But I think it's just saying these are the new ones that are being introduced in the paradigm. So it like so the me replaces the o or the omega, and then
so looking to the right, at the bottom of page 392, the first person singular doesn't have a thematic conjugation. It's what you basically have is lu is the root, and it has an omicron as a connecting vowel, which is the typical structure of the first person singular. And that omicron connecting vowel just gets lengthened.
Yes, because I think also what he means with me, see, and asi is like those are the actual personal endings. Sometimes we can have C because it is connected to the last consonant of the word, but the right personal ending for a thematic would be just iota, right? Mm-hmm. Here with the me verbs, this C and asi. We will have those endings, but not because they are connected with any consonant or combination of letters, but because it's the actual personal ending.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point too. So referencing the thematic conjugation paradigm right next to the me paradigm is helpful to kind of see what's going on. There's a difference between the thematic conjugations and the me conjugations. And for the first person singular, you have a me where you don't have anything for the thematic verbs. You have a C on the third person singular, where normally you have an iota. And you have Aussie, where in the thematic verbs you have new sigma iota. So that's the difference. And yeah, I was right in saying that we do sometimes see sigma iota at the end of a thematic verb, but that actual conjugation comes from the personal ending new sigma iota, and then there's some funky stuff that happens because of that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. The only thing that doesn't make sense is never has throughout all of Greek is how in some cases when two vowels or most cases when two vowels butt up against each other, they do some funky stuff. But
Contract.
yes, but in the third person plural 34.8, it's dido asin, and so you have a vowel at the end of the stem, and then a vowel at the beginning of the personal ending, and apparently those just kind of coexist.
Yeah, I wonder if um, if it were the case that you it let's okay, so it's the personal ending. The personal ending is alpha sigma iota. It's not sigma iota and the connecting vowel of alpha. Does that make sense? The connecting vowel is a piece all of its own
Right.
in the thematic verbs.
Right. Okay, and it's that's non-existent here.
Yeah, it's not existent here. All you have is the root plus personal ending, and no connecting vowel in between because there's no need.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I guess what I was getting at was a lot of times they lengthen or contract or whatever you call them when you got two vowels like intervocalic or I don't know. And so
The
you can't.
intervocalic deals with sigmas that come between two vowels. I think what you're talking about here is the vowels button up against each other.
Yeah, and I definitely understand how there's. I mean, one's a stem and one's this, but it seemed like in times past, even then, there were like, there's some kind of changing that would happen, or it would become a diphthong, or it would, I don't know, but
I don't know that.
Accept it. I'm past the point of questioning certain things. I'm just going to accept it because.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if this would be the case. I wonder if the Omicron plus alpha combination, because I don't think that's a diphthong, but I wonder if it would contract in other instances if the alpha wasn't part of the personal ending. If it was just a connecting vowel, I wonder if it would behave differently, and I don't know that for sure.
Can you repeat that again, please?
Can I repeat that? I can maybe summarize it.
Maybe I can help. If he's saying that in this case, you have an omega and an alpha butting up against each other, and that's okay because the omega the omicron is part of the stem, and the alpha.
Okay, so they give the third person plural the example here.
Yeah, third person plural.
Yeah, third person. But if you were to take a different word, say from a different chapter, and you had, I'm trying to think of an example, Damien, where alpha would be included after an omega. Is there a personal ending that has alpha in the beginning?
You mean as a connecting vowel?
Or as a connecting vowel?
No, there's no other alphas in at least not like that at the beginning of the personal ending anywhere else. unique to these. But there are, no, there aren't.
Maybe there aren't any.
I don't even think alpha is a connecting vowel.
Yeah, it's
It's
omega.
just an epsilon. Isn't it just Omicron epsilon?
Yeah. So this is probably the only, unless there's a random word that includes both of them, that has a construction like that.
Yeah. So maybe that's just it. Maybe alpha and Omicron can sort of coexist.
Huh.
I guess that's probably enough of an answer for us for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise we're just going to chase a rabbit.
For sure.
But that's rule number 3. You have me, see, and asi personal endings. Those differ from the thematic first person, third person singular, and third person plural thematic conjugation, thematic personal endings. So rule number 3. Rule number 4 is the stem vowel of me verbs can lengthen, shorten, or drop out, which is an ablaut. And you see that in the future indicative, or the future active indicative, do, so the Omicron just lengthens to omega. And it doesn't reduplicate. That's only for the present active.
Interesting. And it becomes a do because instead of a D. Why? I felt like we studied this already.
What is it?
Yeah, it was in Rule 1, 34.6, paragraph 1, 2, 3, for doso. I was wondering why it wasn't deso. Doso. If you're working from the present tense stem, you'll not be able to use it. But if you recognize that the verbal root of didomai is do, then I live on a busy street. There's a lot of noise here. Then doso is clearly the first person singular future and is regular with a lengthened stem vowel. Rule 4, from do to do, to da to do. Okay, so there's something with the, if you recognize the verbal root of
the root is delta omicron, not delta iota. Remember, the delta iota is the reduplication of the
Present.
right present tense stem. That's right.
Yeah. So I guess that would be a future tense, right? Doso.
What's that? Doso? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It says future at the end of the paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what it is saying is, for you to recognize what is the verbal tense, you don't really need to know why it lengthened or not. You can just do it by watching the word, looking at the word, and apparently the rules are so burdensome. It's not really worth to learn them, because you can easily recognize the tense by recognizing the root, right?
Yeah. So I was wrong. I said there were 4 rules. There's actually 5. And the 5th rule is that the aorists use a kappa alpha as their tense formative. The reason that's significant to note, maybe I should ask it. Why do you think that's significant to note? Jake?
Well, it's similar to what we've seen before. Brief had kappa alpha endings, I believe, before. With the aorist, you obviously have the augment. That's not new.
Right.
But I guess I don't know.
So the let me get my sheet again. I should just check it out. The perfect, the perfect first perfect active verbs, thematic verbs, have as their transformative kappa alpha.
Mhm.
That's unique to the perfect. No other, aorist in the thematic vowels do not have kappa alpha as their transformative. So it's pretty easy to spot when you see not a reduplication in the me verbs, in aorist me verbs. You don't have a reduplication there. You have an augment like you would normally see.
Okay.
And then you have a kappa alpha, which is not typical of something that is augmented. It's typical of something that is reduplicated. So it should be like a red flag, basically, when you see it.
Okay. So to kind of explain that in my own words, it's like if you see a kappa alpha, up to this point, we generally thought it was a perfect indicative with a reduplication of some kind.
Yeah.
But because we see the kappa alpha and there is no reduplication, there's just the augment. We can recognize it's aorist and that, well, if it's aorist and it has a kappa alpha, then it's going to be one of these particular cases here.
Yeah, and you can look on page 3, the top of page 394. So you have 3 kind of columns, and the third column is what you would normally see, leluca.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So you have that reduplicated lambda with the epsilon fixed in between, and kappa alpha,
Okay.
where the me verbs, the aorist me verbs are augmented, not reduplicated, and still have the kappa.
Yeah. So what they are giving you in the thematic conjugation would be the aorist, right? And then the first perfect.
Yeah. So on this, in 34.10, you have aorist me verbs, then you have aorist thematic verbs, then you have perfect thematic verbs. So you can see the difference between the 3 and the similarities between the 3.
Gotcha. So the perfect will have a reduplication and a ka ending. Is that the exact same as the normal indicative function?
Yeah. So if you look on 34.11, under the perfect, you have the regular reduplication, and you have the kappa alpha. But you look next door to the aorist, you have kappa alpha as well, augment and not a reduplication.
So the perfect is just as it's kind of always been, as far as I remember. And
Yeah.
It looks like all the paradigms line up. Wait. Except for there was one additional one on this chart, but nonetheless, I think it's the same. What's that?
Which one are you looking at?
I was looking here on this chart here,
Oh,
and I got this and the perfect active has.
Give me a second so that I can make that bigger.
okay.
Right.
I'll turn my light on here and you can see what's going on a little better. There we go. This one, there's my finger. This is the perfect act. So aorist, future, present, imperfect. Go all the way down here to perfect.
Active.
Ka, le, kas, le. I can't read it backwards. But then you have like two here, the last one. And in the paradigm, you get the first five and then this last one in the book for what we're studying right now. The interesting one was this one. Le Luca, what's it say? Luca. Le Luca. Yeah. And this is the only one that has like an additional.
Oh, you know what that probably is? It's probably something where sometimes the sigma will come between vowels and it'll function as an intervocalic sigma and it'll just drop out. And so you have some changes that will occur to basically just make the word end with on.
Interesting. Yeah, it does seem that both of them are under the third person plural. So that, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
Maybe. That's the best I can give you without knowing.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So, yeah, basically everything functions the same as it does in the thematic vowels, except for a few exceptions. And those really are found in the aorist, having the kappa alpha sigma, the present having me, si, and asi, and really that's about it as far as the differences.
It's like the main changes are in the present tense, right? Like you have the reduplication instead of epsilon, you have the iota, you have the me, si, asin,
Yeah.
and after that, I think the only thing that changes would be in the aorist when you mentioned the kappa alpha, but other than that, behaves very very similar.
Yeah, and you can see
for the connecting vowel that wouldn't be there, right?
Right. Yeah, and the connecting vowels. I think it was just the present, right? The me verbs do not ordinarily use a connecting vowel in the present indicative. So I guess there maybe could be somewhere else. But you can see this in your book, Jake, on 3410.
Uh-huh.
They call those kappa alphas in the aorist kappa aorist. So that's the specific term for those aorist me verbs.
Okay.
To kind of help you remember.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Kappa aorist, kappa alpha with a augment instead of a redupe.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, cool.
Way better than I was.
Good. I don't really think that there's a whole lot more to say. I mean, they're pretty straightforward. But I do want to share this because I went on a little bit of a manhunt last night because I wanted to see if I could find. Well, I was struggling with something, and basically that something was, where is the passive paradigm here? And it's here. It's on 393. And it's just your my psi tie meta esta untie, just like you do having your passive thematic verbs, your passive indicative thematic verbs. But the difference is, and I know that you kind of, Jake, I know that you have kind of memorized the pattern on your right side on page 393. You've kind of memorized it more like how it ends up in the word and not so much the endings themselves. Because I know that you've mentioned like luamai, lue, luetai, luametha, and I think you've kind of got more of it in the ending in the result rather than, because in the second person singular, the actual ending is psi. The reason that you don't see psi in the word is because there is an intervocalic sigma, and weird things happen when that occurs. You're muted. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there's so much road noise. It's crazy. But yeah, that's how I remembered it initially, was omai etai ometai este onte.
Right. And so the reason why it's important to kind of remember the end, and I'm not saying you're wrong for memorizing it that way, but the reason why it is important to know those personal endings, my, psi, tai, instead of my, a, tai, is because the omicron and the epsilon in the first and third are connecting vowels. They're not part of the personal ending itself. And so knowing these personal endings, it makes sense when you see in the me verb, did I lie, did I sigh, and did I tie. There's no difference other than the fact that the me verbs in the present don't have a connecting vowel, and that sigma isn't, I guess, between two vowels that cause it to drop out.
Got it. No, that makes sense. I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I found that, I guess I just got a little bit curious as to, well, not just that. He mentioned something else in the chapter, I think a little bit earlier, that the reason why it's not as efficient to memorize every form of every me verb is, number one, because that's inconvenient, and it's a lot of information to try to recall at any given moment. Number two is because all of them, only, I would say most of them don't. Most of the forms, or most of the words that have all the forms, not all of the forms that each word will appear in your New Testament. That's what I'm trying to say. So you're going to be memorizing forms that don't even occur in the Bible for no reason.
Got it.
So I guess I got a little bit curious last night and wanted to see, just with didomi, which of these passive forms are in the Bible, in the New Testament. Yeah. And I think that what I found was, if I'm not mistaken, so didomai, there are no instances of didomai. That is with the M, the mu alpha iota ending. There's none of didasai. There are 3 instances of didatai, meta. No instances of didametha. Didaste. No instances of didaste. And what's the third person plural? Entai. So diduntai. No instances of that. So I would have just memorized 5 forms for no reason.
Yeah. Tough.
At least for that word.
You think that's maybe why David mentioned something about the word fading out because it's not being used as maybe it would in other literature?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think if it were still, I don't know, if it were a more common type of word that had stuck around through the development of the language, then we might see more of its conjugations being used. But again, he mentions at the beginning of this chapter, I think, or at the beginning of one of the chapters, 36, beginning of 36, which we haven't gotten to yet, really, is that just because they're phasing out of the language, just because there aren't that many of them, doesn't reduce their significance. And this word, didomi, is a great example of that. And I did just a little bit of homework last night on this word. So when you search, like I said, I searched didotai, and there are 3 occurrences in the New Testament: Acts 8:18, 1 Corinthians 12 verse 7, and 1 Corinthians 12 verse 8. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because there's some theological significance to it. So Acts 8:18, the word in the New American Standard is bestowed. It says, "Now when Simon saw that the Spirit was bestowed through the laying on of the apostles' hands, he offered them money."
Yeah, didomai.
So that's a significant word, right? This idea of bestowing or giving. The Spirit was given through the laying on of the apostles' hands. And then 1 Corinthians 12 and verse 7, "But to each one is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good." 1 Corinthians 12:8, "For to one is given the word of wisdom through the Spirit, and to another the word of knowledge according to the same Spirit." Okay, so here's what I have a question for you, and I'll ask you, Jimmy, and if you don't know, I'll pass the ball to others to see if you know. How would you normally translate didatai?
Didatai?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm used to didomai and didasco. I don't know about didotai. Was there one in here I missed?
No, just kind of help me parse that out. What is it? What is didatai? Like,
Well, you got a reduplication.
huh?
You got a reduplication.
With the iota, right?
Right.
And what does that tell us?
That it's either going to be a perfect indicative, or if it's one of these verbs that we're studying, it'll be one of those rare aorists if it has a ka ending, but it doesn't have a ka ending. So I would assume.
Now remember the aorist. Remember the aorist in the me verbs still has not a reduplication. It has augment like it does in other verbs. So this has the reduplication, not the augment, but it has reduplication with iota.
Right. So it'd be perfect.
So it'd be perfect. No, not perfect. Perfect has reduplication with epsilon. When it reduplicates with the iota, what tense says? In the me verbs.
Well, yeah. That's what we're studying. I was thinking it was perfect, but no, apparently not. Oh, present.
Right. Okay.
No. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So it's present tense. It has a tie ending. So what is tie? What does that tell us about the word?
It's ties the third person singular.
Active or passive?
Hold up. It'd be middle passive or middle. I forget which one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll just say middle passive. That's fine.
Okay.
So present, third person singular, middle passive. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, knowing it's present, third person singular, middle passive, I'm going to read Acts 8:18 again, and you tell me if there's something wrong with the translation. Now, when Simon saw, I'm not going to read the whole verse. Simon saw that the Spirit was bestowed. Or we could just say Simon saw that the Spirit was given.
Wait, which verse is that? I think I already know what you're getting at, but
Acts chapter 8, verse 18.
18. Okay, I'm there. All right. And when Simon saw that the Spirit was bestowed through the laying on of the apostles' hands, he offered him money. Simon saw that the Spirit was bestowed through the laying on of the apostles' hands, he offered. So obviously, passive or middle passive, unless it's one of those middles that like takes on an active form. Generally, you add the word being in there, from what I remember. Now, when Simon saw that the Spirit was being bestowed, or was bestowed, you said it was the type third person singular present. Oh, okay. Well, it's not present.
Yeah, you caught it.
Yeah. So now when Simon saw that the Spirit is bestowing or
Bestowed.
is bestowed.
Yeah.
Okay. Is bestowed. Yeah, because that could carry the same meaning, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now here's why I bring that up. Why would it be significant for us to note the tense of was versus is? Why do you think it could be significant if the Spirit is bestowed through the laying on of the apostles' hands? What would that mean for us today?
The Spirit, if the Spirit is bestowed through the laying on of the apostles' hands, and the Spirit cannot be bestowed, at least in the way in this passage is mentioned, apart from the laying on of the apostles' hands.
Right. All right. And I'm going to make a connection here to Romans chapter 1 and verse 11. It says, "For I long to see you, so that I may impart some spiritual gift to you." The word impart is metadidomi. And Paul's saying that I want to come to see you so that I can impart metadidomi, a spiritual gift to you.
Mm-hmm.
There is an implication here that which I think we already kind of know as a rule of thumb is that you needed the apostles to lay hands on individuals to confer spiritual gifts. But I think that point is driven home even more by the fact that it's presently true. It's something that is true now, not just something that was. It is true that the Spirit is given through the laying on of the apostles' hands. There are no apostles to lay their hands to confer the spiritual gifts.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's very clear. I like the idea of seeing some of that because recognizing something is in a different worded or is in a different tense, but it may be worded in English in a separate tense. Going back to what the Greek said can kind of allow you a little bit more insight into what the author was trying to say and what the implications of what that statement could be.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it ties together quite clearly with what Paul says in Romans 1:11.
Yeah.
Couldn't.
And the two instances of didatai in 1 Corinthians 12, each one is given the manifestation of the Spirit. It ties in together with this idea of laying on the apostles' hands, imparting a spiritual gift, and that being linked to the apostles and their hands.
Mm-hmm.
So these 1 Corinthians 12 and 14, some of 13 really even, are dealing with how to use spiritual gifts in the assembly. Well, if those spiritual gifts are designated only, and this is really the only, other than the two times that the baptism of the Holy Spirit is mentioned, which is Acts 10 and Acts 2, the only times that apart from the laying on of the apostles' hands, that people are performing a spiritual gift. So in this context of the first century church assembly, when they're using spiritual gifts in different ways and using them to build up the church, it's linked to the apostles' hands and the metadidomi, the imparting of those spiritual gifts.
That's it. That's right. It's interesting.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was worth bringing up in class.
Definitely. You can get to see it in action, so it works.
Yeah. That's a me verb. Real life.
Real life, for real.
Yeah, actually two me verbs. Metadidomi, didomi.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That's cool.
Yeah, thanks. Andres, do you have anything to add?
Metadamini.
Oh, I wanted to bring up one more thing real quick. Because you guys keep saying the Damian is perfect. I'm going to show you that it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, don't tell me Damin is a me verb.
It's a present.
The right conjugation is didamin. Didamin.
Yeah, Didamin. Look at the first person plural.
That's funny.
First person
First person plural present on page 394.
Didamin.
Yeah, that's closer to my name than Didokin or Didoka. I don't have a kappa. I don't have a K in my name.
No. I give it to you. Sounds familiar. I didn't know.
I'm just here. I'm just in the present. I'm not perfect.
Well, yeah, you're not perfect.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't know about you, Damien, is that I thought you were you classified yourself as a singular individual. I didn't know you're out here plural. You know,
No, I'm a they.
pronouns to plural. You know, but well, it is what it is.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. I was kind of laughing last night when I found that.
That's funny. That's funny, the dog.
Yeah. I was gonna say one more thing.
Didamienka.
Yeah. I was gonna say something else, but I don't remember what it was. So I guess we'll just have to. Guess we'll just have to go without it.
Didamienka.
Mm. I don't know if there's one for Andreas in here. Is there one that starts with an alpha?
Yeah. It comes from Aner, which is a man.
Ah.
Her husband.
Yeah, her husband.
Yeah, there's no alpha nu delta. Which,
Yeah, I think I am thematic.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the nominative singular aner is andros. Is that right?
Andros.
Okay.
Hmm.
So no lexical forms, but there are some under the lexical forms that could be.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. I feel
Yeah.
more about it now than I did for sure.
Good.
So
Feel like you learned something.
definitely.
Yeah. That's what we're shooting for.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. We got to cover 2 chapters next week, I guess.
Shouldn't be too hard. Now that you kind of have the foundation of me verbs, we're just going to build on the foundation, and we've already learned what non-indicative verbs are and what they do, and kind of what they look like, even. And you're going to see it's almost the same, except for a few kind of special rules for the me format.
Okay. Cool beans.
Wow.
They all have the same. They all carry the
So
same.
next week you will be finishing.
Next week we'll be finishing.
Finally.
Next week you will be a Greek scholar.
What's that, Andres? What'd you say?
Next week you already will be a Greek scholar.
Yeah, not there yet, but next week I will be for sure. By the way, I on this pamphlet here, on the back it has Hebrew, and I don't know any of it. But y'all are going to be there teaching it, right? Helping us through.
Lord willing, yeah.
Andres is like,
I've been kind of brushing up a little bit, so I feel good about Hebrew. Like I still know how to read it. I still know quite a bit of vocabulary, although some of it has faded. But I'm excited to get back into it.
Now let me ask you this, because this is something I was intrigued about. I don't know if it's true. I know that Hebrew and Arabic are different languages technically, but with your knowledge of Hebrew up to this point, does Arabic look familiar at all or not at all?
You mean Aramaic?
Aramaic, yeah, sorry. And modern Arabic, but
yeah, Hebrew and Aramaic look pretty much identical.
Okay.
In terms of like they use the same alphabet, more unless there's a like one or two that aren't used in Aramaic that aren't in Hebrew or whatever. I don't know that I haven't studied Aramaic. I haven't studied its alphabet or anything like that, but I've seen Aramaic words in like kind of doing some like word dives. Like if you look up in a Strong's or kind of a concordance or something, or something that kind of gives you more background information of a word. You'll see a lot of like symbols and things you don't really understand, but in that you'll sometimes see Aramaic words that have Hebrew letters, and it sometimes will be the same three. Like so, Hebrew is typically built on 3 consonants, and all of the Hebrew alphabet is consonants, by the way. So most words are built on 3 root consonants, or three consonant roots rather. And so those 3 consonants sometimes will be the same 3 consonants in Aramaic as they are in Hebrew. That's almost the extent of my knowledge of Aramaic.
Oh, one other question is while it's on my mind, I went to Greece a couple times, and their Greek is, it's different. I mean, it's similar, but it's different. Mm-hmm. What about modern Hebrew today? Is it similar, different, or?
I think there are more words, but do have. It's kind of like Latin. It's like this language that people feel is holy and it needs to be preserved, and so that's kind of what I think people do with the Hebrew language. Although there are some varying degrees of pronunciation among Hebrews today that live in different areas in the Middle East. They pronounce things differently depending on where they're at.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Well, cool. Well,
Yeah.
that's all the questions I got. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
me too. We still got one more class of Greek to get through. So
Is it just one more class, or
I think
because
so.
I was
Let me check. I have the calendar here.
With
it was
the,
like I
with-
think for like 2 or 3 weeks at the end of our course we got to practice just translating for
Hey,
the
maybe-
last classes.
maybe
I
so.
think semester should
Yeah,
finish in
semester-
2 weeks. No, today's 9.
Yeah.
No,
My
next
other-
week is the end of the semester.
Next week is the end.
Yeah, then they start summer.
We might have, whenever we were in Greek, I think we might have like combined a couple of chapters here and there, and then ended up with more time in the end or something.
Maybe so.
But I was kind of looking forward to that. It would have been fun, but it's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thanks. And I'm gonna go get to work. Got a long
All
day
right.
to go to.
Have a blessed day.
All right, y'all too. Thanks for
I
your
got the
time.
Samara.
What's that?